One thing I learned about this whole single mom experience.
I just wanted to say, like, I'm looking at these comments under the single mom experience video, and it's really sad seeing the judgment from women, honestly. And the reason is because this is coming from a woman that does not have any kids, never had an abortion, right? And I've had pregnancy scares, though. And it's just interesting to me how women can be so judgmental, because some of these men manipulate you, trap you, love bomb you. Why do you guys think that I focus so much on men and manipulation? Because I've been manipulated and I know what it's like. When you're in the thick of being manipulated, you don't see things in the most truest, rawest form because you're being manipulated. And this is why I don't look down on single moms, because I don't know what happened to them that put them in that position or situation. I'm just not going to make assumptions. Then number 2, right? I think about culture. I think about a time where my mom came up, and during that era of women, they were taught culturally that it's better to have a man than to not have a man at all. So a lot of women would put up with things that they knew they didn't feel comfortable with, they didn't agree with, they knew that it had a negative impact on them and their well-being, right? And low-key, that older generation of black women tried to teach the younger generation of black women that same type of cultural standard. But we, the younger generation, decided, no, we're not doing that. It's not better to have a man than to not have a man at all. Sometimes it's better to not have a man at all. So I think about stuff like that, because I was getting it when I was in a very toxic relationship. I was getting advice from an older black woman, and it was horrible advice. And that could have easily set me up to become a single mother. Then number 3, a lot of us were raised and brought up in a toxic home. So our discerning or discernment is not the best. It just became a thing in black culture to go to therapy. This is why I promote it a lot and often. So it's so odd to me that you have women that are this judgmental about single mothers, and they just make negative assumptions like, oh, you knew, or oh, you knew better. Another thing that I want to make, another point, is a privilege to have good parenting in the black culture, in the black community. It's a privilege to have a 2-parent household. So not all of us got the same type of parenting. When I was coming up, which is not the standard in black culture, when I was coming up, I had to ask both mom and dad. That's not the cultural standard. Another point that I want to make: generational cycles typically are repeated because better is not being taught. It's not being taught. You can only do better when you know better. So a lot of times we see the single mother thing repeated. It's a cycle that a lot of women tend to find themselves trapped in or fall into based off of what they saw previously with the previous generation. This is why I'm always highlighting cycles, patterns to you guys throughout my commentary, because it's so important that you come to the realization that a lot of times we repeat cycles that we've seen. So you have to be careful with that. And so this whole single mother thing, it's a cycle. It's a generational cycle. It's a generational cycle that a lot of women are not being taught to avoid and how to avoid it, especially when the father was never there to begin with. You want to know how I was taught to avoid single motherhood? By my father, because his mother was a single mother raising 4 kids on her own, and because he embedded it in my head nearly almost every day growing up. This is why he put me in sports. I played sports throughout my entire childhood, adolescence, and preteen and teen, and almost my adulthood. So a lot of women don't even have this type of structure, and I see that. So it's just crazy how people just judge. It's so easy to do and look down. You know, there's a difference between judging and using discernment. So yeah, I use my discernment, but I'm not looking down on people. Like, judgment is when you look down on people and you feel like you could never be in their situation or position, when the reality is life has a funny way of teaching you things and you could very well be in their situation. Just live a little longer. That's what my parents used to tell me. They say, just live a little longer and you'll see. So I don't look, like, I use my discernment, but I'm not doing it in a way where I really do look down on people and think that I'm better than them because life taught them this way and life taught me a different way. Because life taught me the same lessons that a lot of single mothers are teaching, they're being taught through their experiences, when I was taught throughout my childhood in a different way. But we both are learning the same lesson. It's just she's a mother and I'm not. That is the only difference. So I don't get the judgment from women at that in my comments. I don't get it. It does not make any sense to me. So this is the advice that I'm giving to women who don't want to become single mothers. The best advice that I can give you is to not judge the next woman. That's the best advice that I can give you, because I'm telling you, as soon as you do, you find yourself in their situation. You didn't ask to be in their situation. Life happened. Life happened. Life can still happen to me. So I just don't do that. Like, I just don't do that. You know, I try to understand and I try to be supportive and I try not to judge, because we all make mistakes. We all have demons. We all have things that we have done that we're not proud of. So it just doesn't make sense that because she has a child that I can just judge her and look down on her. I just can't do it. And when you a woman's woman, when you're a girl's girl, like, yeah, you can offer advice, but like, not in a I could never be in her situation.